Guys, today we're going to check out this guy's video. His name's Lord Curry. He doesn't have a crazy amount of following yet, but this seems like a pretty high effort video with the editing and stuff. I'm interested to see his take. Let's take a look at it. He says, the most important plot point of Clair Obscur is a lie. And then he says, they tricked us. I'm on the wrong account.
We'll start this over.
No, that's fine.
He manages to tell
all right, there we go.
Story that feels.
Jasmine, you ready?
Yes.
Here we go.
Expedition 33 manages to tell a coherent story that feels fulfilling while also leaving many things up to interpretation. In continuing to think about this game in the aftermath of finally finishing it, my brain keeps going back to one.
Titley, thank you.
What the hell?
Titley just tipped $50. I'm starting this over so that we can re-lock in. But dude, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
It's doubled on YouTube. Is that intended? I have my sound off. How do they hear it?
No, they're talking. Look at your screen. It's doubled on YouTube.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. That's just how it's gonna be. The audio shouldn't be doubled. Is your audio still on?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Here we go, guys.
Expedition 33 manages to tell a coherent story that feels fulfilling while also leaving many things up to interpretation. In continuing to think about this game in the aftermath of finally finishing it, my brain keeps going back to one plot point. The plot point that literally everything else in the game revolves around. I am of course referring to Verso's death. As we know, the stated story is that he gave his life so that Mael would live, and he died in a fire.
Yeah, I don't understand how that happened.
That wasn't true. Please allow me to explain why I have doubts over the veracity of this event. For us to begin to outline the foundation of my theory, I believe it's critical to talk about the painted Verso, who is of course our main character. Verso is a character who's been alive for a century and has spent most of his existence lying to and betraying others. Regardless of your emotional investment in him, and regardless of if you think he is justified, that is an objective fact of his character and this game's narrative. Think of somebody you love. If you have a significant other, think of them. That person for Verso was Julie, and he betrayed her and their fellow expeditioners. By the looks of it, he literally killed her. He didn't run away, he killed her. He killed his lover. Regardless of the reason, this is an event that took place. He objectively betrayed her and their fellow expeditioners.
Jeez.
This is an event that predates his story with our expeditioners, but it's the start of a pattern that holds throughout his existence. And this is a pattern that we witness in the present throughout the game. As we know, he lies to our expeditioners literally the entire time he's with them. His original betrayal is of his painted family, who he unaligns with to pursue his own goals.
That actually bothered me so much. Like, the things he chose to lie about were it felt so random sometimes. But it was always just like that calculating, like, are they going to stop trying to kill the paintress or stop working towards what I want them to work towards just because this thing exists? And that was even shown when Mael asked if he let Gustav die.
Yeah.
That was insane. Like, the fact that he could have saved Gustav and then Mael was like, it's fine, I forgive you. I'm like, no, I don't.
I know, and
No, we don't forgive you.
I love how the devs like introduced that to us, like that information, by having us pick if we want to tell the truth or lie.
Yeah.
And that tells you, like,
we could have lied, which is crazy. Okay, we'll keep going.
Literally, the first thing he does when we meet him is lie and suggesting that he wishes he could have saved Gustav, and professes that he got there too late.
Thank you.
Then he lies about his relationship with Renoir to our expeditioners. He obviously lies to Mael the entire time he's with her and never reveals her identity to her.
Yeah, I think he said Renoir was the captain.
What defeating the Paintress will result in. Then, after CL and Lune are resurrected, Verso feigns and aligns all the way through the end, where he eventually tries to force Mael out of the canvas and erase the entire world itself. I rehash all of this to establish that, literally from his inception into the canvas, Verso has always been a deceitful liar and betrayer of others, regardless of what his intent is in different scenarios. He could have the best of intent, but as Lune puts it best, Verso thinks in false dichotomies. So I'll briefly unpack that because I know some people might not know what that means, but if someone thinks in false dichotomies, it essentially means that they tend to see situations as having only two opposing options, when in reality, there are often many possibilities or a spectrum of choices and outcomes. This is extremely problematic because it oversimplifies complex issues.
Yeah.
It can limit critical thinking. It often leads to unnecessary conflict or poor conclusions. And we see this repeatedly with Verso, but to save time, I will only reference 2 examples.
This actually happens a crap ton in people's relationships. Like if you think to yourself, do I tell my significant other this thing? Is she going to be, is it going to be a good day or a bad day when I tell them that? That's a false dichotomy. That's like me saying this to my partner will make it a good day or it'll make it a bad day. Or me doing this thing will make it a good day instead of a bad day. Like, things are way more complex than that. And it works against not only the partner, but the person that's doing it. Because the person that's doing it, when they think that way, they're like, I'm going to make my partner breakfast, and that's going to make it a good day, and my partner will be happy all day long. And then they get upset about something, and that person thinks to themselves, but I made them breakfast.
Yeah.
Why are you having a bad... Oh, I do so much. It's like, bro, there's more to the situation. Like, there's other things in act, but, you know, they're so fixated on this thing, the way that they've been thinking to themselves all this time, that when it's not true, they then internalize it and get upset as well. It's weird. But yeah, people that think like this, they're kind of sociopaths. And if it doesn't go the way that they want it to, then they're kind of upset about it.
He encounters so many situations where if his thinking wasn't so binary, more positive resolutions could have been achieved. For example, in the scenario where Julie and his fellow expeditioners are interrogating him to get to the bottom of things, Verso is literally immortal. And that's his lover and his friends. Why doesn't he just run? He could easily run and try to make them understand over time. Why does he immediately jump to murdering all of them? It's because of his troublesome black and white way of thinking. He thinks they're either with me or against me, and let's conclude the situation, instead of thinking, let me commit to trying to help them understand before things reach a point that it is me or them. Or let me just do my best to avoid them so they can at least live what life they have left and not have to die at the hands of somebody they trusted and somebody they loved, in Julie's case. The most relevant example, though, is, of course, the game's ending. There he goes again. False dichotomies. He thinks that the only options available are to fight Mael and force her out, or be forced to stay immortal and watch Mael stay in the canvas permanently. When, in reality, if he had just taken a softer approach and not ramped things up to 11 with Mael after the most intense fight of her life, the game probably would have had a happier ending. He could have taken a softer and more considerate approach and tried to talk with Mael and help her process everything over the course of a few days, months, or years, especially with the canvas at peace. And
this is true, but it wouldn't have made for such a good story. And I think that's shown a lot in like Romeo and Juliet. Like, the story is written to be a tragedy. So, like, you have to come up with these two tragic endings where you're giving something up for something else. Like, in Romeo and Juliet, they give up their lives for love, even though they could have, like, figured out something way easier. So, yeah, it's weird that that so many people are kind of, like, so fixated on the endings, but, like, it has to have that ending or it's just not a tragedy. And that's what it was written as.
And Mael having her full support system back, I genuinely believe an amicable Verso would have been able to eventually get what he wanted, and also helped Mael learn balance, and eventually leave the canvas and stop living there on a permanent basis. Instead, we got what we got, due to Verso's decisions. Now let's take a moment and go over what we have established so far. We've established that the painted Verso has a century worth of repeated behaviors. He frequently lies and betrays, and he almost exclusively thinks in false dichotomies. Having established all of that, I want to talk about painted Verso's inception. He was painted by Aline, and he's based off of her memories of Verso. In other words, this liar and betrayer who thinks in false dichotomies was made by Aline to represent her real son as closely as possible. Do you understand what I'm saying? Aline's perception of her own son was that he was a cunning and charismatic trickster who wouldn't hesitate to lie and betray when it suited his aims. She perceived her own son as having a routinely insular and binary way of thinking. I believe this has immense implications when it comes to us understanding who the real Verso was as a person. We can absolutely give credence to environmental programming and the nurture of things when discussing how painted Verso could differentiate from the real Verso, but
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But he did it at like
point where he can't really
0.
stray too far from what the real Verso was. After all, aside from ourselves, for most people, who is better to paint a representation of us as people than the one person from whose womb we emerged? I want to continue along and stick with me because I'll put everything together soon. We have to talk about the axons. As you may recall, the axons were painted by Renoir to represent his family members. Clair is represented by the Hauler, the dead axon that we witnessed in the game that was killed by Simon. The Reacher represents Alicia. Cyrene or Cyrene, I'm not sure, represents Aline. But most importantly, it's Visage who represents Verso. Visage is known as he who guards truth with lies. He who guards truth with lies. He who guards truth with lies.
Yeah, that's true that both parents saw him that way then.
It really does speak for
itself.
itself.
Yeah, that is interesting.
The real Verso's own father, the other person besides his mother who you would think would know him best, thinks of his son as somebody who is an outright liar. To further corroborate that this is how...
A lot of people are talking about a sequel of the game, and I don't know if they are going to do a sequel. But if they did do a sequel and it turns out that Verso was working with the writers, that would be so interesting.
Yeah.
Because he talks about how he doesn't want to be a painter, but instead wants to be a musician.
Yeah.
And I think that would be so interesting if he was trying to get out of being a painter by going that direction, especially since the painting that we're interacting with is from his childhood. So it doesn't seem like he's got a more recent painting or something that he's invested in if this is the painting that we have from him.
Yeah, I was also like reading some sort of forum that a lot of people, I mean, they want, but they also kind of got, I don't know, like word that maybe they're going to do either an expansion or something of like before the painting, like
like a DLC or something. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how all that's coming along. I heard that they were starting from scratch, and I took that as I kind of hope they do though a sequel.
But it would be interesting.
I did hear that they are doing a DLC.
Yeah.
How his parents authentically view him, when Verso himself is helping Maëlle learn to paint at the level required to bring back Ciel and Lune, he tells her, painting isn't about verisimilitude. It's about essence, the truth of who we are. So all of these traits are what his parents think the truth of who the real Verso is, not simply a result of painted Verso's circumstance. With all of this established, I want to state my theory that I believe more and more each day. I don't believe what they tell us in the game. I don't believe that the real Verso died in that fire. I believe he is alive and that he faked his own death.
What?
Wait, I never thought that.
Let's
what the
start with
heck?
what we witnessed with our own eyes. If we assume that Maëlle's dream sequence is what she remembers seeing the night Verso died, can we talk about how suspicious it looks? He's standing amidst the fire, completely calm, and gently tells Maëlle, "You're okay." I'm sorry, but burning alive is literally one of the most painful and worst ways to go. If this is Maëlle's memory of what happened, then I have immediate alarm bells in my head about if this man really died. And that's independent of all of the context I provided earlier.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. I don't know why he's interpreting that as literal, because that's not literal. But we'll continue. Hopefully he has another supporting point.
It's an interesting theory, though.
And his identity as someone who lies and betrays routinely to get what he wants. But what does the real Verso want? I keep coming back to how the game goes out of its way to tell us multiple times that Verso's true passion is music. We see in-game that the painted Verso's happiest moment in the entire game is probably when he gets to play piano with Maëlle. He shares his deep love of it with Lune, and also it's kind of implied that Verso has an aversion to painting. He is said to have only painted one canvas in his life, which is of course part of why the Desandra family is so hung up on this canvas where the game took place. Additionally, something I find interesting is that we find out that painted Clair is the one producing Nevrons, right? Is there a possibility that painted Verso could paint and produce life within the canvas if he wanted to? I kind of feel like there is, but he has such a disdain for it, he never does. The only time he even approaches the art is to help Maëlle because she literally can't figure it out herself. If she was able to do it on her own, Verso never would have done anything related to painting within the entire game.
Yeah, that's true.
How would this manifest in the real world? As we know, the Dissandras and the Painters Council are at war with a faction called the Writers. While you might think novels, I'm beginning to think that the Writers might be a faction that also has something to do with music. It goes without saying, but we certainly write music. Listen, as we know, the story of Verso's death is that the Writers tricked Mael and got to Verso and he traded his life for hers. But what if, in reality, Verso wanted to leave the Dissandras and the Painters and join the Writers because writing music is his true passion, not painting? What if the real Verso engineered the faking of his own death so he could leave his life and responsibilities and join up with the faction that is more aligned with his passion?
This is pretty interesting as well, but it's really hard to do something like this. Like, you would have to leave some kind of skeleton or something behind. And then also Alicia being part of that collateral damage would just be horrifying. So it's like, this is interesting, and I would hope that they went in this direction, but at the same time, I hope they wouldn't go in this direction. Just because of how disgusting of a person he would end up being.
Yeah.
Having, like, burned his own sister.
But also, because you're saying like a skeleton left behind to like proof that he died, or like what do you mean by that?
There would be remnants in the fire, and people at this time would know to look for those and that sort of thing.
I feel like also, I don't know, because it is a game. It literally could just be he died in the fire and they just assumed. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll keep going.
Passions and desires. One of the lines in the game that sparked this line of reasoning for me was when Verso was talking with Lune about family. The following scene plays out.
My parents were both artists. Widely respected, very prominent artists. So, there was a great deal of pressure to follow in their path.
You're an artist, then?
Not the kind they wanted me to be.
Meaning?
Music is my passion.
Huh.
That line right there, not the kind they wanted me to be, sticks out in my mind like a sore thumb. Verso does have the ability to paint, so why is it that he states specifically that he wasn't the kind of artist that they wanted him to be? I believe it's because his natural proclivities are aligned with their enemy faction, the Writers. So I believe there's a double meaning here. Verso is saying he cares about music more than painting, yes, but I don't think it would be that big of a deal if it was simply music or playing the piano as a hobby. I believe that what's being alluded to here is that he dabbles in an art that falls under the umbrella of the enemy faction of the Writers, and that is a disappointment for his parents. Unfortunately, we don't know enough about the war between the Painters and the Writers yet for me to make really specific deductions on why it would be a disappointment that he is musically inclined or may possess powers of the Writers, but there's certainly enough here to begin piecing a few things together. To continue along, remember that we've established Verso is a character where lying and betraying are within his essence. His painted version lied and betrayed both his painted...
Real quick, to that point, basically, if you have an older sister and a younger sister, and they're both trying to go down this line of painting, and you're the middle child, and you start to stray from that, it looks like parents don't know how to address that. Like, you have to remember, parents are just kids having to be grown-ups. Really, it is. Like, everybody's just trying to figure it out. When you have somebody that strays off like that, and you're so fixated on, I'm the best painter, I know how to teach these things, I know nothing about music, that's a very scary thing if your middle child is like, well, I want to do music.
Yeah.
So... definitely interesting. Also, Wraith, welcome in, and Cadiddle's welcome in as well.
And I think that's also because it's making me think of my own childhood.
Yeah.
Like, when my dad wanted us to get into music, or, like, he had all of our instruments. Like, I would play piano.
Yeah, it's, like, planned out.
My younger brother would play drums, and then my older brother would play guitar. But then I ended up really liking drums. And then my dad's like, didn't know what to do because he had me in piano lessons. And like, it's like it messed with his plan, like of all of us learning something and then teaching each other. But
there
I had
goes the family band.
I know, but had no interest. So it's like, it was like that, you know? Yeah. And so that can be frustrating when you kind of have this like painted image of how you're going to do things or how you're going to teach your kids something or how their upbringing is going to be, and then it doesn't go that way. It's like you don't know what to do. You don't know how to.
We're almost at the end of this video. Let's wrap it up. Let's see what the conclusion is. But yeah, that's rough.
Family and his outside world family at different points in the game. It would make a lot of sense if the real Verso's death was yet another misdirection to get what he wants. It would make a lot of sense if the real Verso was someone who also betrayed his family. Now, there's so much open-ended within the narrative, it's hard for me to exactly deduce how Verso would have accomplished this, but I can certainly make educated guesses. As far as Mael's involvement, I think that given Alicia's naivety, Verso may have deliberately staged his death so that she would be the only witness. It would have been easy to generate the circumstances where that is the case, given that the fire happened at the manor. But then part of me feels like it's also likely that he staged the fire and he didn't expect Mael to be there because while he is a selfish asshole, I don't think he would intentionally scar and maim his sister. I think that maybe he didn't know she'd be there, or maybe things just didn't go the way that he was hoping when he executed his plan. Or who knows? Maybe the real Verso is even crueler than we imagine, and that was indeed a part of his plan to sell the lie. If you're wondering how Verso would fake his death in a fire, well, it's hard to conclude, but as always, I have some ideas. In our brief time in the real world, we do see some unnatural phenomena. We see the painters show their powers in the paint around their faces, and we also see things levitating within the manor. This to me suggests that their power set does have the capability to affect their real world as well, not just canvases. And as we know, Clair intends.
That's true, and we do see like little statues in Claire's room and stuff like that, like little sculptures that are painted and or putting paint on those would make them look real.
To fight a war with the writers in the real world, which I feel suggests that to some degree the painters may have powers that can affect the real world. Additionally, something else stands out to me. In the final confrontation in the game, Mael says to Verso, "You shouldn't be here." And I believe this is deliberately meant to say to us that we don't know everything about how everything works. Painted Verso had the power to cross bounds into a space where he shouldn't be able to exist. So what I think and wonder is that maybe Verso had been spending all of his time trying to figure out how to paint something that could exist in the real world. We know he only painted one canvas in his lifetime. It's very possible he spent all of his time trying to figure out how to paint a copy of himself to place in the fire and sell his death. After all, we know the DeSandre family has no qualms with killing their creations. Part of me also wonders, and mind you, we are now about to get deeper into the deep end, but does Aline know that Verso is alive and that he simply betrayed their family? Is she the only one who knows? While her grief being far larger than everyone else's can be simply explained away by the fact that she's his mother, I wonder if maybe she knows the truth and is just so heartbroken by Verso joining the enemy that she runs and holds up in the canvas to reject a reality where her son would forsake her for the enemy. We are told repeatedly that Aline is essentially the alpha of the family and the head of the Painters Council. I don't think it's a leap to think that maybe she knows more than the others, and that is what compounds her grief beyond anybody else's. Maybe she knows that Verso is alive and betrayed the family to their greatest enemy.
Dude, that would be crazy.
I'm truly just spitballing at this point, but
honestly, I think it would be harder for a mother to cope that their son ran away and wants nothing to do with them than their son passing away. Really, if you have seen the way people grieve and what people go through, I think it's way harder for a mother to cope with somebody leaving and then having no idea where they are or how to contact them than them passing away.
It'd be interesting if she had an additional reason to be as shattered as she is, other than the fact that she is the mother. I don't think this scenario would take anything away from the fact she perceives Alicia the way that she does. We could still chalk this up to her being comparatively disappointed to her in general, and disappointed that she was there the night of the fire and was not able to save Verso or get him to stay. One last note I'd add is it's very bizarre that we don't see her shed any tears in Verso's ending. I know she has essentially spent 67 years grieving, but part of me just wonders about the way she gives Renoir a look, and almost a knowing look, and in general how she conducts herself. Does she truly think her son is dead? Now listen, I know we're moving further and further away from the foundation of my argument, which was rooted in logic and evidence we see in the game, but what I say next is pure conjecture and probably the most baseless thing I'll say in this video. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if in a future game we are playing on the writer side of things or playing within the real world in general and we get a plot twist or shock moment where the real Verso enters the room and he's a playable character or a character within the story or even an enemy. Real Verso being an enemy or antagonist would work really well because many players already have an affection for the character of Verso, and that could be a captivating scenario.
Yeah.
Now, I want to sign us off with a quote from 19th century Irish author Oscar Wilde. I know, it's out of left field, but that quote is, "Life imitates art." And in this context, I truly believe that the real Verso may imitate the painted Verso more than we currently know. Okay, so we just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you infinitely from the bottom of our hearts. It means the absolute world to me that you are here, and
yeah, this was a great
Very
video.
touching.
Definitely, guys, go give this guy subscribe to him. He
Let me throw
this
a
was
link
great.
to this video in Twitch chat so you guys can go check it out if you want to check it out.
Yeah,
this
he has a puppy.
Pretty very interesting video. I think he says it's rooted in logic. It's not quite rooted in logic, but there are enough things where this could be a possibility. So it's super interesting, and I also think that if this was a possibility, that they would go about it this way, where it would be like you leave it open-ended the way that they've left it open-ended, where only one person has really witnessed it. So that's a really good takeaway as well.
And also, it was interesting. I know it's not like a huge point and I have to like focus on it a lot, but it was interesting that she did not shed a tear.
Yeah.
She was the one that like was so consumed and like lost in it and really, really, really struggling with it, while, you know, like the dad was a little bit, not saying he was like level-headed, but he had his reasonings for things and he wasn't letting that kind of emotion overrun it. He was trying to use logic. So it's just interesting that after the end of it and she's kind of back, that maybe she's just tired. I don't know, but it was interesting. And she taught him how to handle it. True.
Some of the comments on this video are short stories. Yeah, I feel like
people love having discussions about this.
It's a really good way to get engagement is to come out with a theory like this. I've got my own theories that I'm putting into
definitely drop him a like.
A review video in the future. I've kind of got those thoughts written down, and we'll definitely get into that. But if you're watching this on YouTube and you enjoyed the video, thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the next one.
Yes.
Please leave a comment. Please tell us what you think about this, and go check him out.
Go like his video right now, Seth.
Yeah,
like it. This was great.
Curry, I'm gonna go ahead and
subscribe as
well.
This guy was great. Yeah. I like his theories. There's a little things that I'm like, I don't really know, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We hope to see you guys on Twitch sometime. Bye.
Bye.